Okay, so here I'm going to be starting my streaming on Rabbit Hole Central. It looks like this new Skype camera. I wonder if I can shift it a little bit. It's supposed to do face tracking. It's mighty close here. And this will be farther away so we can get it recorded. So what I want to talk about today is binary economics and some of the comments that we've been getting on YouTube. Let's see if I can. Right, here we go. I'm hoping that at 12 noon exactly, about 2 minutes to the hour, we're going to have a Harold call in. And what I want to do is go over some of the comments that have been left on his YouTube posting with Robert Ashford. And because I'm getting some comments from a Robert Cyril, and I'll read them when the time comes. And, great. Rabbit Hole Central.
Yo ho ho!
Hey Joe, great to hear from you.
Hey Joe, great to hear from you.
Maybe turn down your computer?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, great. So what are you thinking? What's on your mind?
I'm worried you're repeating your show too many times.
Which one?
It's the one where it says, I love the set, it's you, and, what's that?
How many times has that been repeated? Because it should only have been repeated twice. I mean, I did 3 of those on anorexia and Holocaust denial.
Yeah, it's the one where I run around and you ask me about September clues.
You know what the problem might be is maybe one of the other 2 glitched and they keep playing that one. Because I had it playing 3 days in a row because we had parts 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. You want me to hand in something else for you?
No, I handed in, Alan's actually supposed to be handing some in. I wonder if he missed handing them in.
They could be with him.
And maybe they played them from last week. That's too bad because I had some great shows coming up too. But I love those shows too though.
Anyhow, congratulations on streaming so quick.
Well, it seems my dad's got this new Skype camera. And it's coming in kind of close, but you know, you're able to see it okay?
Is he there now?
No, he's not. He's upstairs sleeping. It's a little earlier here in California. So what's on your mind? What's the latest at Truth for a Change?
Oh, today actually I went ahead and stuck myself on the camera, in front of the camera, and said, how about revolution for Christmas? I'll be Santa Claus and give you a revolution for Christmas. And I talked about the people seizing ownership of the economic resources, theoretically speaking, and planning for that in advance with a website that would allow everyone to talk about how they would like to have things happen after they do own everything. Which sort of fitted in with Harold's Robert Ashford thing that you helped him tape, apparently.
Right. And there's supposed to be a big conference in a couple days with thousands of lawyers at the Hilton Hotel, and I'm thinking maybe if you could videotape it, you could get in on that, because it's not open to the public, it's only attorneys, but you've also been through law school, so...
Yeah, I was just talking with Harold about an hour ago, and he did invite me to come to this New Year's party where Robert Ashford will be attending, and Robert Ashford will be staying at his place tonight before he checks into the same hotel as where the event is. And he did say Wednesday wasn't going to get covered video-wise, so that would be the big day I could come in. I think Goldberg is going to be covering it Thursday, I'm not sure.
I see. I think he had some conflict with his schedule. But Scott wants to do an interview with him, and I think he's scrambling to learn about binary economics. And Scott was the one, while you were on the Michael Moore tour, the Sicko tour, he videotaped Nico Haupt and me giving some papers to Dennis Kucinich. I gave him papers about zero-point energy. There's a professor, well actually he's not a professor, he's a PhD from Cambridge in physics. And he also worked in a patent office, so he has the kind of mind that can take the theory and put them into devices. His name is Harold Aspden, and he said that in 1871, in Mansfield, Ohio, the county of Mansfield, a patent was given for a device that takes energy out of the vacuum state that would surely be the solution to our energy problems. Although I don't think that's the only device. I'm almost confident of that. And it's not just some fantastic genius like Nikola Tesla. I think that this comes up time and again. And Dennis Kucinich just grabbed the page that I had. It was a photocopy of a letter sent to Molly's father. He just grabbed it from me. I didn't even intend to give it to him. I mean, I can get another copy. But so he has in his possession that, and then Nico Haupt was talking to him about either September clues, and there was a very nice energy between Nico Haupt and Dennis Kucinich. And Alan was really surprised because Alan was sort of cringing because Nico Haupt's reputation precedes him. So I thought that was important.
Yeah, that's nice that there was some good chemistry there.
Yeah, and we can follow it up. So the point is, as I said, the bright point is binary economics. So I'm going to exert myself to the utmost to keep promoting whatever work that you get, that Scott Goldberg gets. Scott wants to put it on his documentary, Dying for Change. So
incidentally, do you have call waiting if other people want to call?
I do.
Okay.
I do, and I could go back and forth the same way.
And Harold said that he would fill in if you didn't get it going, but you got it going.
Right. I want to show you another thing here, Joe. This is called The Man in the White Sharkskin Suit. And it's written by a lady who I think lives in New York, so I hope to get a show with her. But she wrote a book about the exodus of the Jews out of Egypt when everything was nationalized. But I remember when I was in Alexandria, that I was at some kind of Rotary Club for women. And when somebody found out that I was related by marriage to a Benaki, which is the Greek shipping family that also had all of their assets nationalized, he asked me if I knew if this Benaki's art collection had been kept intact, you know, when he had to leave it behind. And interestingly enough, even though he was Greek Orthodox, the art collection was Islamic art. And this man, you could tell, was very refined, very educated, and very poor, but he had a great love for art. So my hope always is that through art we can start to unite people at a time when it seems as though economics divides them, and that perhaps binary economics might be a type of art. It's a thought.
Well, I think art is a grand power, a great power that should be applied to whatever good ideas we can come up with to provoke the people into going the next step and making it happen.
Now, another thing I want to say in this book, she was talking about how one of her uncles became a Benedictine. You know, they come from a very elite Jewish family that was very close to King Farouk, and they were enjoying a lot of privileges of that closeness to aristocracy. And what a horror it was when one of the brightest boys became a Benedictine priest. However, later on, when there was an exodus to Israel, it was this Benedictine priest that sort of watched over them. But this one, Tanta Marie, decided to sort of break down in Cairo and go ahead and meet this uncle again. And he came and brought gifts to all the rich little Jewish kids. And they said the only thing that was different about him was that he had a long beard. And that reminded me of you, and it also said that he was the closest thing that the kids had to a Jewish Santa Claus.
Incidentally, I have a poem about a Jewish Santa Claus if you want to hear it.
I definitely want to hear it.
Okay. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and down here in Boca, that's Boca Raton, Florida. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and down here in Boca, I was sitting at Starbucks, drinking my mocha. I know we're all Jewish, but was wondering still if Santa would come here and give us a thrill. On my way home, no Christmas lights did I see on the houses, the windows, not even the trees. What a strange feeling, not a decoration in sight. Was it really December or a warm summer's night? I drove past the delis, there were lines out the door, people were waiting for kishka and more. The restaurants were busy, Christmas dinners not planned. Never, not here, we're in Boca land. At home all was quiet, I left out kosher wine in case Santa came to Boca for the very first time. Snoozing came easy to me Christmas Eve. I wasn't waiting for presents to be left under a tree. I could hope all I want, I could fuss and then see if Santa would make time for little old me. Then all of a sudden he pulled up in his Jag with a sack full of presents, each sporting a tag. Oh, bloomies, oh, sacks, a computer and more. He knows where to shop. He frequents my stores. He looked for the lox, the bagels and jelly. He came to Boca first to fill up his belly. I have a long night ahead, I want you to know. From Boca I leave for New York and the snow. He stayed for a while, he chatted and ate. Then he left in a flash before it got late. What a great night, I thought with a sigh. That jolly old Santa is really a nice guy. As I cleared off the table, I heard with delight, Shalom to you all, and oi, what a night.
Well, Joe, you've done it again. You brought everything together with art. What I'm hoping to work with you on when I get back is the Armenian Holocaust and genocide, because I think you'd be the perfect man that can, with your great stature and decades of experience with public access, draw together the best of feelings between a lot of people who have a lot of animosity with each other.
Well, you know, I did get involved in the Armenian genocide earlier.
Really?
There is a woman, Anush. Have you met Anush?
No.
Anush is a New Yorker who has been preoccupied with the Armenian genocide for, golly gee, since adolescence, I guess, or since early adulthood.
Is she Armenian?
Yeah, she's Armenian,
I see.
or half Armenian.
Uh-huh.
And I think
Half Jewish?
Huh?
Half Jewish?
No, the
No.
other half I think is Polish.
Oh, I see.
And she's not particularly effective, but she's very persistent.
Right.
And so she prevailed on the studio where I was working, the woman who ran it, to move on this subject. And I remember I went to, I think Libya, or Germany, somewhere, and I stuck my friend to work with her, and he got pretty close to committing suicide. He had so much trouble working with her.
Really?
Really. And he didn't live much longer after that, actually. But at any rate, he tried to work with her. But what it comes down to, I mean, having said all that, I've been exposed to the arguments and stuff. I've been to the Armenian religious place on the east side.
Right.
Which is around, where is it, about the East 40s? East 30s, have you been there?
No, I was hoping while I'm here in Berkeley, because it seems as though I was looking around the coffee shop with my mother, that Berkeley seems to be the gathering place for intellectual exiles from all of these different countries. And what I'm hoping to do is use in the future, by working with particularly people like you and Harold, who have a vision of the economic solutions, because usually it's economics that's at the basis of these misunderstandings. You know, some people...
To come back to the Armenian genocide, what stands out in my own mind is that there was recently legislation and in the U.S. Congress, and they backed off, that Turkey said that if you have that legislation in which you acknowledge the genocide, then we will make life tough for you, and you're using our country for your military bases with respect to the Iraq in particular, because we're using Turkey for our planes and stuff in Iraq. And having said all that, nevertheless, Turkey has been invading Iraq and fighting with the Kurds. I think the more important issue right now is what Turkey is doing to the Kurds rather than what Turkey did in the past to the Armenians. And there is certainly a legitimate complaint by the Kurds, who have been deprived of having a country of their own in which, you know, just like Israel for the Jews, that's what the Jews want. Well, the Kurds want at least their own territory, not to take it away from anybody else, but they want their own territory to be like a Kurdistan. And Turkey doesn't like that idea. And part of the problem is there's oil there. But meanwhile, back to the Armenians, it is strange that whenever the Armenians score some points in just getting the world to acknowledge the horrors that several million people were marched to their death by the Turks, then books are destroyed from libraries, like in the Wisconsin library. There were some books that had this story in it, and they were destroyed.
Really?
Apparently by Turkish students.
Right.
So they really work at it's at least a clue that they're ashamed of it, that they want to hide it.
Oh, the Turks?
Yeah.
Well, you know there's a claim that the Zionist lobby is behind it, and that the young Turks were really bankers in Thessalonica, where there was a big Sephardic Jewish community. Now, what I want to do, again, like I say, here in Berkeley, we seem to be a collection of intellectual exiles. I have a very close family friend, and she, you know, she's a generation older than I am, and she showed me a photo album, she's Sephardic Jewish from Rhodes, of the most beautifully dressed, obviously refined, obviously elegant people in 1920. And I found out from her son, who teaches astrophysics and told me a lot about directed energy weapons, by the way. He said that his family were so gifted with language that they were translators to the Sultan. And so I'm thinking, if I can capture a story here of just people's experience, the older people, like I know an Armenian, I want to hear what he has to say. My mom says he's very diplomatic. And I think a lot of people, when they have these horrors, they don't want to think about them. So as a result, people don't put the pieces together. But if you have an example of a Sephardic Jewish family who was killed in Rhodes in a horrible way, then you could show that whoever these bankers were, whoever the claim is, that what was behind the Armenian genocide, because they're also claiming that if you go into the Talmud, that the Armenians are equated with Aramek or something, that's always the perpetual enemy of the Jews and has to be destroyed at all costs. So again, you know, I'm appealing to your good-hearted nature, your work on public access, and a lot of the open-minded people I know in New York, so we can go beyond the progressive and go into solution. And I think that's what Harold wants to do with binary economics.
You know, when I hear Harold say nobody has a vision for the future,
Oh, good.
I'm thinking, thanks, Harold. What about what I'm trying to do, Harold? What about it? And he kids around. Like when I talk to him on the phone, he goes, "Oh, fundamental change." But are you have some sense of what I'm proposing? That it's like we make the plan with the internet to say what it would be like if the people could sort of redesign society.
Well, No, I understand what you're saying about the sun, because I think that super excites me about you, Joe, because you're very nature-based that way. But right now, I wanted to take a trip down to Google because they own YouTube, and they're taking down some of the most interesting sites about the television fakery that went on during 9/11. So what you're talking about depends on a free internet. But what I'm excited about with binary economics is you've got people who've been working at this for decades, and they could have a model to say how we need to get capital ownership in the internet. I think that's a priority no matter what your position is on the Armenian genocide, whether it's the Jewish lobby or the Turks or whatever. We need a free internet to resolve this. We need capital ownership in our most valuable, well, we need them in everything that concerns all of us. 40 acres and a mule is what I'm telling people. What I'm trying to do with this stream is like the gunshot's gone off and I got my mule and I'm staking out the 40 acres.
Tell me more what your plan is to provoke or push Google in what direction.
Well, Google's headquarters are here in San Mateo, so I want to go down. Like, for example, when I had a cellular license, we were beholden, and rightly so, to the Public Utilities Commission. And that means that if we were given a license to serve the public with cellular telephone service, we had a responsibility to make sure we had an 800 line if people were having problems with their service, that it would be resolved. So I'm thinking, how much more so with something like Google or YouTube, is it imperative that whoever owns it is beholden in some way to some type of governance to make sure that websites are not pulled down capriciously. And particularly you can see if there is television fakery that's gone on with the images that we saw during 9/11, and the only way we can communicate, because it seems as the corporate media has sealed up cable and the way people get television usually, then it's imperative that we keep the internet free. So I'm going to go down there. I've got the address. I'm going to bring my camera, and I'm going to go as far as I can to nail down who does own it, and to see if we can use principles of nonviolent communication and empathy and so on to get everybody's needs met. Because what excites me about Robert Ashford's binary economics, which was Kelso, is that it's win-win, that it's not like rich people are going to lose, but we're just going to maximize the importance of capital ownership.
Well, yeah, Google is an interesting phenomenon. They're one of the more hopeful things to even make an argument for capitalism itself. I think between Google and eBay, that are some of the better arguments for economic freedom, for ideas to prevail.
Right.
But instead of, as I understand it, so far Google has been pretty pro-people. I didn't know they were using censorship against the Nico no-plane TV fakery position. But
Well, the one I was interested in is called Ozzy bin Oswald, and he had 1, 2, and 3, and they took down 2, which it looked like it was really going, and he was getting more creative. And for me, it was one-stop shopping, because he used to go out and spend time gathering some of the best of the images that went even beyond September clues, and he would mirror the work. And so pretty soon it was taken down. This was in the last week or so, and he came up with Ozzy bin Oswald 3. And I found out a couple days ago that was taken down. And so I know if I put the word out, people can give me their grievances about their favorite websites that were taken down. Because, I'm spending time with my family, and actually now I'm helping my sister with her wardrobe consulting. So I don't have time to be on the internet that much.
I've noticed that, like, one of my favorite sites is truthout.org.
Okay?
And on their opening page...
Oh, excuse me, Joe, truthout.org is its own independent website. I'm talking exclusively about YouTube.
No, wait, let me just finish.
Okay.
That on their opening page, they say that AOL and Microsoft are censoring their communication with their email list.
Right.
So, and I personally feel that AOL has a kind of a obvious right-wing bias, that they are part
Yeah.
of, I mean, they're the ones who bought Time Magazine
Right.
and that empire. And Time Magazine is certainly a right-wing proposition.
Right. But you see,
But, if you want to put some pressure on Google, okay, but it seems like Google has been, for the most part, better than government regulation would cause it to be. It's like, it's a little scary to imagine the government being a good influence on Google. I mean, it's hard to imagine the government saying you should include the stuff that they took off.
well, you know, it's been a while since we've really connected, Joe, but since you've been gone, I have been exposed to more work about an international drug and weapons cartel that can buy off media for $50 million, and government is rather helpless against it. I'm no longer believing that 9/11 was an inside job. I'm believing 9/11 was a media job.
Wow,
Yeah,
media job.
right.
I don't know, I'm tongue-tied.
I know. Well, you're about to be promoted to generalship, Joe, you and Harold, for your long time standing in public access. God forbid they take down M&N, then we're sunk. I have more faith in Manhattan Neighborhood Network than I have in the censorship that I see going on the internet.
Well, I don't have enough hits for people to worry about my side yet. But is that,
Well,
is that
that-
the dimension? If people get lots of hits, then the political pressure starts to be applied?
Yeah, for example, I did a little thing where I was seducing Ozzy bin Oswald to come to New York. It was really funny. You know, I got in my Christmas hat and everything. I put it up, and today I have about 500 hits on it. However, Ozzy, the guy I was trying to seduce to New York, he instantly had 800 hits. And then in a few days it was taken down with all of his website. And of course he had more provocative comments on there because maybe people weren't worried about hurting my feelings.
There's so much.
And he has a younger crowd. And of course this is another thing I'm interested in working with you on. You always talk about strike when the iron's hot, how we shouldn't have the kids sexually repressed. I think that's important too.
Now, when Google or YouTube takes something down, is there communication between them and the person they're victimizing?
I think maybe we can get one of these victims to call into your show, and you could ask them those questions. I just haven't had time to go into the details. I just figured since I'm here in the Bay Area, I have a brother who we did the cellular business with, and I know from the point of view of business and capital and money, I know you're a progressive liberal and you don't even like the word capital, but I think you might have a revelation when you get more connected with Robert Ashford's, shtick. But I think I can get my brother, who's a very straight guy, to come down to San Mateo and see what we dig up. And actually, I want to mention, as you know, I'm here in Berkeley with my dad, and this is his chemotherapy book. I'll put it here for everything to be seen. And he has on the back of it a picture of Laura and George Bush. So since I'm primarily interested in healing, I want to work with everybody wherever they're at, Armenian genocide and the German genocide, and see if we can stay connected long enough to put the right elements on the table and get into spectacularly good health. That's my hope.
Incidentally, technically speaking, what kind of camera are you using?
Well, I'm over here, I've got a Skype Logitech, But the reason I keep looking over here is because I'm recording on just a regular little camera that I want to post to YouTube. Because I find that not everybody logs on the internet. I haven't got the live streaming really down yet. Thanks to
Are there any
Harold.
sunglasses around?
Yeah, I know. It's because the sun is streaming in on the morning.
I was thinking if you could put a pair of sunglasses between you and the camera, maybe that would work.
I could maybe.
The camera wears some sunglasses.
Right. Here, maybe I could do it like this. I was trying to make it a little brighter, but maybe it's better this way. Is that better?
Let's see now. Yeah, that definitely. There, now your beauty shines as opposed to your cheeks.
Yes, great. So that one where you're running back and forth, that wouldn't be the one with Jean Klein, would it?
No, that's
No.
just, she talks about how much she loves Alan, what a wonderful guy he is, and how psychotherapy requires people wanting to change, I guess is what it comes down to.
Right.
And you were putting it to me, come on, Joe, what about September close? And then I say, the nose. How come the nose is in such great shape after it goes through the building? And then Alan says, noses, there's plenty of noses, or whatever.
Joe, that's great. Have you seen September Clues?
Oh, incidentally, it's hard to watch now. I went to September Clues, and it's not up either.
Yeah.
They have it turned into a kind of a commercial site.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Go through the 8 pieces and say, oh, there it is.
You know, my greatest hope is what's going to be happening when you videotape on Wednesday. Because I'm so excited about real economic solutions on the table, and I'm sure, Joe, that you can blend in your knowledge about the sun signs and the energy and the, you know, because we're creatures of nature. Anybody have any comments on
Enough
what?
of Joe. Let's get some new voices in here.
No. Anybody have any
Well,
comments on what Joe says? Should we? You think Harold's around?
Yeah, we can invite Harold. He's probably watching.
I'd like to hear what Harold's latest thought is about your solution. Would you call it an awareness? You call it a compass, right? A solar compass.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Well, on today's show, I did say that I'm looking for a September 10th with the web skills, and we would alternate hot sex and work.
That's so nice. That's so nice. That will attract the younger crowd because, you know, but I think sex is on everybody's mind, actually, at any age.
That way, doesn't it?
And you know, another thing is I've seen really viable models of longevity into hundreds of years, you know, in which case we haven't even hit middle age.
All right. Yeah.
Harold Chen, are you out there?
Harold, come on, let's start a big family.
Yeah, right. I want to know what he thinks about. Well, he might be logging off after 28 minutes because he was keeping it tight to a 28-minute show.
Yeah, that's true. He does think of it in 28 minutes.
Right.
Still.
Well, anyway, I think we should close now unless you have something else to say.
Let's see, we covered here.
We covered a lot.
Wednesday, I wouldn't be that sure I could spring the birthday factor on him among the lawyers.
Oh no, don't do it. Well, you know, you can be discreet, but let's continue working at it. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
And we'll build up your website around this paradigm.
Okay, and I want to thank John Kowalski for making a YouTube video about how to use Sorensen and put stuff up on the web.
What's that mean?
Well, we got as far as getting the Sorensen compression, but we didn't know how to use it, and Steve Neskus said, hey, Joe, you can go to a video that John Kowalski has actually made where he walks you through how to do it right on YouTube.
Oh, really? How do I get to it and I can post that?
I guess you got to first do a John Kowalski YouTube search to find the video, and then you'll have the link.
Okay, great. When I post this, I'm going to put that in the blurb section, okay?
Yeah, good.
Because that's a really important part of technology.
Yeah. Anyhow, it's been good rapping with you.
Really
and,
good.
I'm glad we pulled the shade down a little.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so this is Paula Gloria with another episode of Farther Down the Rabbit Hole. Joe Friendly's been streaming from, he's been calling into the stream from New York, and Manhattan is where I anchor the time. It's 9 o'clock my time that I started the stream and 12 noon in Manhattan. So thanks, Joe.
Okay, and hopefully I'll talk to your father on a live show sometime.
Oh yeah, maybe tomorrow because he's a September 10th.
Right.
Oh right, okay.
Okay,
But
good.
the proof of the pudding will be in the eating.
Okay. Well,
Okay, bye Joe.
Bye-bye.
That's great. Okay, it's been really wonderful being with all of you, and I've just logged off with Joe, and I'm going to close here on the stream. And hello.
Yeah, hi, Paul. It's Harold.
Oh, Harold. Am I still streaming?
Let me see if I go back to.
I think I am. I think I hear myself. Yeah. Well, let's keep going, Harold.
All right, if you want.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find. I was doing some other things because when I called, it's something we want to take track of.
Right.
Let's see if it's yeah, there. Now I see you. I got it too high here.
Maybe just turn
All I got was.
the sound down.
Yeah, I turned the sound down now, and I want to tell you, Joe was on, and I called your number, Constantine's number, and instead of getting a ring and a call waiting, I only got the busy signal.
Oh, okay. So he doesn't
the
have.
call waiting must be off or something, so
Right.
I was trying to call, but I couldn't.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Harold. I'm glad that we got.
I don't know how that works, but, if you, and then Steve called in the middle of it, and then it was a matter of, he said when you do that, if you have the call waiting, I would hear it ring and you would hear a beep on your phone.
No, you're right.
All I got was a busy signal.
In California, we're 3 hours behind you.
Well,
Right.
I know that.
So I had to get up so early in the morning. To come over to my father's because he's in Piedmont, California, and I'm sleeping with my mom's house in Berkeley. So,
Right.
so I never even asked them. I just assumed everybody in the world had call waiting.
Yeah, well, that might be something you want to check if you're going to stream tomorrow.
Right.
If you want to have more than one call come, because that's what happened.
So Harold.
We weren't able to get through to you. But I heard Joe, and I heard you talk about the Armenian Holocaust and all that.
Right. Do you want to say a few words about economics at the basis of almost all our problems, if not all of them?
Well, that's my belief. I think there should be some psychology of material well-being. Most of the psychological problems in the world would probably be able to be solved if everyone had what they reasonably needed and or even reasonably wanted. I think 99% of the problems would disappear because you'd have individual people able to choose where they want to go without being coerced by the economic considerations. That's my thought.
Right.
So instead of Oedipal this and that and all kinds of things they come up with, if you had a decent if you had a liberated economic order where each of the individuals were independently able to function and didn't have to answer the blandishments of coercion or co-option by the spinmeisters and so forth, I would think then people could just find their own way. That's a sort of anarchistic view of things, but I'd like to see each individual member of the human society independently able to make a decision, and when the boss man came and said, you go over there to fit in with the rest of the people dragging those rocks across the hot sand, you could say, I don't want to, I'd rather go over here where it feels right, and people could become associated with one another by, like people jamming, free people jamming. So that would be my view, and nobody's written a book, as I can see, on the economic implication or the psychological implications of economic independent status for each member of the human society, which might be possible now.
Wow, for those people into linear methods of expression, such a book I think would be very important.
well, I don't know who's written along those lines. You've got all kinds of bourgeois notions coming out of Freud and so forth about Oedipal, this and that. And we got a lot of understanding of human psyche. And, you know, I had a really interesting thing. I saw John McLaughlin. He had his one-on-one. He's quite a fellow. He's been on forever on television. And he had these two, I can't remember their name. I wrote it down somewhere, but it's gotten lost among them. It's a married couple who've written a very major book in terms of astrophysics. And it was very interesting to me because it was a man and a wife team, and they had primmed something, and they were talking about the nature of the universe and what's going on over at CERN, and that they're going to be able to take the measure of the Big Bang 13.7 billion years ago. They're arguing from a physics perspective. And so forth, and among other things, he's talking, and and John McLaughlin's asking layman's questions like we all would and everything. But among other things, because one always knows, if you think about it in terms of biological evolution, that there's been an evolutionary process where, like the neocortex or the prefrontal lobes of the human consciousness and brain, and the consciousness of mind behind it and so forth, has been, in a certain sense, included. And we all know that we have the limbic system and the reptilian core, it's sometimes called, that these other systems have evolved, later in the evolutionary process. So we have, fight and flight and all these things that are part of our makeup, and it's just built on. And she had an interesting thing because she's talking about physics, and she said that actually we're all made up of, I think she used the term stardust, and that singularity that is contained within each of us not only goes back to all the dinosaurs and the reptilian core notions that we have as part of our makeup, but it also goes right back to the Big Bang. There's a unity in the universe that goes back far beyond even biological processes that appeared on this planet. But that would have something to do perhaps with psychology. But that's a comprehensive view. It was really interesting to me, and it was sort of something I can start trying to incorporate in my way of thinking. The singularity goes back to the very beginning of the universe.
You know, what you're saying about stardust gets back to Joe's thing about a solar compass. I was talking to John Cheshire, and he was trained as a scientist, and he was also an executive at DuPont, and he's interested in zero-point energy.
Yeah.
And he said, according to some of the more profound scientists that he's running across, and he feels in his older age he's not beholden to anyone, he can study whatever he wants, that if you were to go to the sun, do you know what the temperature would be?
572 degrees Kelvin or something.
Did you know?
Dorian Sagan had that because that's the gradient of thermodynamics.
Well, here's where I hope Joe's still logged on.
Oh, sorry.
He said that the sun is cold. The temperature is cold because you're starting to go into a black hole or something like that. And he was really, it was so interesting. I'm hoping to start getting some first-class scientists who are not beholden to institutional agendas, and even though they haven't had the peer review process that has those institutions behind them, I think we need out-of-the-box solutions now.
Yeah, well, I have a hard time. It may be. I'm all ears for all kinds of new thinking.
I know you are, and you're going to have such a nice rapport with John
one
Cheshire.
that I must say escapes my ability to encompass.
I know.
It's not. It's very hot. And then it's the gradient out into it. And it was really interesting to me. Dorian Sagan and Dazzle Gradually, and his wife, his mother, Lynn Margulis, and everything. He's written a really good book on thermodynamics with a guy named Schneider, and he said it's the gradient, and I don't know what the temperature was, but it went from something on the order of 570 at the sun to something like 2.8 for space, and that's a gradient of the thermodynamic process of moving toward disarray or entropy in universe. But
what I'm saying,
I can't understand how the sun can be seen as cold. It doesn't.
I know, and he was very careful. I just sprung it on you. I'm not a scientist. It took him a long time to explain this to me, but it has to do with looking at the world very differently. And I'm thinking in a certain way, when you talk about binary economics, I think people, it's very hard for them to get out of the rut of a zero-sum game. That more for everybody is going to be less for the few that have so much. That actually it's going to be more for everyone.
Well, yeah, and it may be not true. I don't know for sure, but and Bob doesn't think it's important to come. I'm looking forward to seeing Bob. He's coming in tonight.
I'm looking forward to it too.
And try to help him out with getting some footage. I'm going to have to go with my little camera to that conference, I guess, as well. And there's other things we're doing that have nothing to do with MNN or anything, but just life. There's a lot of things that are calling our attention to. It's a very busy week. But anyway, to help Bob in that. But he doesn't think there's any point in bringing up the idea that I get from, and it should be stressed, it's not any one person or anything, but it's the idea. And that's the thing that just, one of the best measurements of it, with the idea that, I guess you have to go to the axiomatic principle that there are a higher percentage of the world population due to, and also, if I may, it's that Stardust thing, that the technology is all an extension of consciousness. And that is part of the evolutionary process, but in terms of being able to take the measure of things, where we're going to take a picture of the shock wave of the Big Bang 13.7 billion years ago within a millisecond by the LISA telescope array that's going to be launched in 2011, is a mark of our being able to take the measure of the universe with a pretty comprehensive capability that was not characteristic of, say, a Tyrannosaurus rex, or much less the unicellular spongiform that all fauna was something like 600 million years ago. There was a long evolutionary process that had to be, accumulating capability towards consciousness. And that's evolved in space with the human society. We're at the top of that, the omega point, compression. And you want to get an argument for this being something other than a qualitative paradigm transformation as relates to human affairs and human institutions. So you reach out, if you have to the beginning of the universe in order to get an idea that we're transcending a condition that we hear about all the time on television, news, and so forth. And it's that thing of Fuller coming out of World Game, where they took some of our best minds in a comprehensive context and got human trends and so forth, and new technology, emerging technologies, Mendeleev, the periodic table, our understanding, all of these kind of things were building up. And they took it, and then they took a measurement of what, in general, and it's always I thought Buckminster Fuller was such a comprehensive person, and the people around him, they had this thing called the Design Science Decades, 1965 to 75, at the University of Southern Illinois, where he was. And they took the measure, then it went over to Pennsylvania, University of Pennsylvania. But they took a measure, and like in Einstein, it's a E equals mc square, encompasses, in a very economic use of language, a principle or an idea. The major idea that would have come out of all that thinking that had to relate to the human society, and the things we mostly think about, was that we had, from the axiomatic premise that we are able to provide, if we get a measurement of haveness and have-notness among the world population, we would have to define what we mean by that. And if we get that, there would be a higher percentage of the world population would be able to be seen to be haves through time. And that we reached a point where we were more than 50% could be seen by their reckoning. And I see a Mr. Constantine. And how are you, Constantine? It's so good to see you. But anyway, just to finish that little thought, that we were perhaps transcending material scarcity as an ontologic reality.
Well, a time will come when I'm going to use you. You stimulate me.
Oh, well, how are you, sir? It's so good to see you again.
I just had breakfast.
Oh, good. What did you have a good breakfast? A good preparing for New Year's Eve celebration breakfast, huh?
Yeah, well, New Year celebration is not for me.
Well, it'll be making its way across the continent in 3 hours after us, but we're going to have to go out and avoid Times Square, where you got millions of people and everything, and go to a party and bring it in with fireworks and so forth.
Say, Harold, can you tell my father where you're going to be celebrating New Year's Eve and the proselytizing you hope to do?
Well, we're just going to be going to a party with some friends, academics and so forth, liberals by and large, and we're going to be going to a New Year's Eve party that will have one of the best hams that ever. Polly Cleveland, our friend, gets the best ham that ever you've tasted from Virginia for Mother's Central every year. And then we're going to have champagne at midnight and watch fireworks near the Tavern on the Green in Central Park and say Happy New Year in a traditional kind of way.
Man, you are what? Are you 40 years old?
Well, I'm not that young. I'm still 39 like Jack Benny. Jack Benny stayed 39 for his whole life after he reached that, you know. Yeah. So how have you been? I haven't talked to you for quite a while. Dream with you and Paula way back when.
I know. I don't know how to do this setup. Paula came in to show us, but when I'm trying to work to see what I'm doing, she's reading a book.
Paula is really pushing the envelope.
I know.
Communication, our hats are all off to her.
Say, Harold, guess what
I'm seeing you very loud and clear and hearing you on my computer here in Manhattan, and that signals a capability we wouldn't have had 10 years ago for an individual to do that, and that process is only growing in terms of communication capability.
I cannot see you though. What can we see?
You won't be seeing me because we're not doing Skype.
Everybody's hearing us in the world.
Because we can't do two-way when we're also streaming.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a limitation,
We need
but
two computers
if I may,
to do it.
Constantine, every day I tell Paul if she comes up against some problem, think 1 year out where we're going to be. She's pioneering the use of the new communication, and 1 year from now I'm sure we'll have it figured out how we'll be able to have a two-way process going on. But that we're able to do this at all is quite a feat for individual liberation, perhaps, from the...
Yeah, but the important thing is to make some money.
Yeah, always it comes up like that, and economics and all that. But
how do you make money? I don't see any money coming in.
Well, that's a problem in terms of that there. But that it's available to the individual on their laptop to do that, which is within the range almost of not having to be a business investment. It's just part of the human character, human communications. And I just did a program that's going to air on Thursday last week with a man named Mark Stallman. And he's a very interesting pioneer. He's a venture capitalist. And he was the one who was at, I forget the Brown, he was the one who brought AOL public way back when, and he was also the first ever to, but they were both thought of as dead-end losers. Most of the entrepreneurial efforts die and don't get themselves established, but AOL did, Mr. Chase or Case and so forth. And then there was another one, Sun Microsystems, which was thought of by the major houses that track technology out there in near where you are, Menlo, or out there, was Sun Microsystems, and he supported those two issues, and they took off, and now Sun Microsystems up there somewhere in the billions of dollars, they realized, with their servers and so forth. But he's going to air on Thursday, and he's got he thinks we're coming to the beginning of an upsurge in in a 7-year cycle of technological boom and bust cycles like we have in the business cycle. But you might be interested in that. It'll be on Thursday this week.
Tell me, what is your background?
Out of Michigan, interested in things, did all the work for the doctorate in geography, got very interested in things comprehensively, wanting to think about big patterns rather than specialization. And so I became interested in everything, and then got attracted to Buckminster Fuller as a comprehensive philosopher. Marshall McLuhan, Teilhard de Chardin, people thinking about the evolution of events on a large tableau. And then got interested in communication through association a little bit with Marshall McLuhan, who was touted as the oracle of the electronic age. He was really an interesting person. And there was a lot blowing in the wind and stirring about 1970 or so. So I got interested in that because I was interested in the communication. As soon as what they call a portapack, which was the first device by which an individual, rather than an institution, was able to make television. And that in turn developed from the work of Peter Goldmark Sr., who had invented videotape.
Well, are you talking?
The inventiveness of our technological entrepreneurs and developers and so forth.
When are you talking? The 40s or the 50s?
I don't think it would have been. I think it would have been because the early television, they didn't have videotape. You realize they had what they called kinescope. It was a filmic process, and they just didn't have a way to store the images and so forth, and he invented that. He and his secretary, Bonnie, I remember doing a program with them way back when, a grad man. And then his son became the chairman of our Port Authority here in New York City, Peter Goldmark Jr. But anyway, he invented it, and so all the work was coming from Japan, and I got the use of about the fourth portapack that came off the boat from Japan back around 1970. I think the first one went to the president, and the second one went to Nam June Paik, an artist. But I had a friend who had one of those, and it was a reel-to-reel thing, and you could make 20 minutes of television. An individual could make television rather than it being some big institution you had to be associated with, like those early machines. And so that's how I got started in television, and so this in public access, and then there was sociologically and politically this movement to make available to the people and democratize the access to communication. And so the program that I do here is the longest running, still running program in public access, I guess, in the country.
Well, that's
I've been interested in it all along, and along comes Paul and Gloria, pushing the envelope and giving us direction and everything like that. And so this public access is important, and I guess I'm democratically inclined, and I take my hat off to her saying she would include all 10 billion people into the dialogue. Let's all get together in one big ballroom and make an apple pie.
Well, in a certain way, we're doing it on the internet. Say, Harold, on the posting with Robert Ashford, who's going to be speaking to several thousand attorneys in 2 days.
Yeah, he's coming here to our house tonight. He's going to stay with us tonight. He's on the airplane on his way to New York now.
Tell me again the nature of the conference and who will be there, because it's not open.
I'm not really sure, but it is a conference of law professors. And I remember those people are quite well known because they're academics and, in the legal profession.
Right.
And some of them are well known. I don't really know who the big stars of that world are.
But it's not open to the public, right?
No, it's to the people who make up this association, and he told me they're going to have something like 5,000 lawyers.
Okay.
Gathering at...
Okay.
Boy, that's something to contemplate,
Right, no, I'm looking forward to that. Now, I want to just say that on the posting and on your site with Robert Ashford, somebody named Robert Cyril said, an excellent intro to binary economics. However, my project goes beyond this subject and is called Transfinancial Economics, or TFE. And then I ask him if he's going to be at the conference, then he says, no, thank you for your comment. I will not be at any conference. TFE is at this time of writing a work in progress. I also know Rodney Shakespeare, who's a major authority on binary economics, or BE. Robert Ashford co-authored a very...
located?
What's that?
Where is he located?
Well, Robert Cyril, I was going to ask you, do you know him?
No, I don't, but
well, you
there are a lot of people...
You should spend some time on your YouTube because it's on your site that I got it. His name is Cyril8. I'll send it to you on email. But this is the kind of thing that I feel is that autodidactic, self-teaching nature of the internet.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I think it's like a great big university.
So you don't even know Robert Cyril?
No, I don't know the name, but that doesn't mean, I don't recall anyway.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited about what's going to be happening with these 5,000 attorneys.
Well, they're going to be talking, about a lot of things legal and so forth, and there's one section that Bob's been able to get, he calls it socio-economics, trying to broaden the scope of legal minds in terms of economics. And then there's a few people within that have some interest in this binary notion that Bob, as far as I know, is the only professor in all of North America teaches this notion of economic theory that in my mind is destined to inform the entire political and sociological organization of the planet.
Now,
So I think it's an important thing that is overlooked because it's so very inconvenient to our historically inherited notions of things. And the thing with Mark Stallman, he had a great deal to say about Joseph Schumpeter
right.
and creative entrepreneurialism, who was arguing it out in the 30s, 40s, and 50s with Keynes, who came to reign and that kind of thing.
Right.
Anyway, they're going to have this big conference, and we're going to help Bob get some footage and everything, and he'll be here, and then it's going to be a real busy week because we got some things we have.
Harold, can you correct me on something if I'm wrong? Robert Ashford is carrying the torch for Louis Kelso, who was an attorney in San Francisco and developed binary economics in the 1950s?
Well, he started in the 50s along with Mortimer Adler.
Okay, and Mortimer Adler had the Encyclopedia Britannica?
Well, he was chairman, and
Chairman.
he was a major philosopher. A lot of
Okay.
people, there are a number of people who would see him perhaps as one of the leading contemporary philosophers.
Now, did Louis Kelso develop the leveraged buyout?
He did the first ever leveraged buyout, yeah, where they used the assets of the corporation to buy it as collateral and to buy it in a pattern where the ownership came to be vested in the employees of the corporation rather than in a stock owning.
Okay, so this is what I want to ask. My father had something when you were working at McHale's where you had a stock ownership participation. Do you
Oh,
remember
that's a
that?
long time ago. I was not working there. I was, when I was going to school, I was working part-time, as a
Employee.
washing
Windows.
the windows in the cars. There was nothing. I don't even.
Yeah, but what my mom said, because she knew Louis Kelso, was that this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, she knew his work in the employee stock ownership program, and she said that my dad had just come